everyone, I'm here today to do a bookish gift guide. And this video is going to be dedicated to novels that I've read this year, that have been released this year, that I think would make good Christmas presents. This time last year I was working in a bookshop and I was giving people lots of recommendations for Christmas gifts, and this year I don't have that, so I thought that I would share with you guys instead my recommendations. So I have 7 books to share with you, and I think that these books should cover quite a wide range of people. So without further ado, the first book is The Chimes by Anna Smale. This was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize, and it is based in a dystopian London where the populace is being controlled by a giant musical instrument. This musical instrument is used to wipe people's memories, and in doing so it keeps the population subservient to this rule. This means that music is a big part of this book, and I loved it because I'm a classical music nerd. I also loved it because of the way that she uses language. Especially in the first part of the book, she uses a lot of musical terminology in everyday speech as a kind of slang language. It's very beautiful, very ethereal, and especially good if you are a classical music lover. It's very evocative and beautiful, but also quite confusing, especially in the first half. On top of people who love music, I think this would be really good for people who like reading YA, but maybe want to branch out a bit more into the world of literary fiction. The second book is A Place Called Winter by Patrick Gale. This is one of my favourite reads of this year. It's set around the turn of the century, it's after the Oscar Wilde trials, and it's about a gay man in London. And there's a scandal which essentially ruins him, and he is sent off to Canada and rural Canada. So a lot of this book is set in this very bleak, barren setting. This novel is really well paced, it's got a lot of plot, a lot of character development, and this is a book that I would recommend to pretty much everyone. I think that the way that it's written is very accessible, but also very well crafted. It's a beautiful story and it fills my heart with joy. The third book is another dystopian. This is one that I'm sure you've heard lots about on BookTube, but it is The Grace Keepers by Kirsty Logan, and I think that this would make a great gift because, for one, it's just beautiful, and even if the gift receiver never reads it, it's something really lovely to sit on their bookshelf. But they really should read it because it's a marvellous tale. It's really sort of whimsical. I think people who like books like The Night Circus would really like this. It's been compared to Margaret Atwood, Jeanette Winterson, Angela Carter, and I think that any person who hasn't read this already would be very chuffed to receive this as a present. The fourth book is A Year of Marvellous Ways by Sarah Winman. Now, Sarah Winman wrote When God Was a Rabbit, which is a book that came out a few years ago and was very popular at the time. This is her second novel. I haven't read her first one, so I can't compare them. It's mostly about this woman called Marvellous, and I think that the name itself just gives you an idea of the sort of tone of this book. It's whimsical, but it's also heart-wrenching at times. It's really beautiful, really funny. It's set in Cornwall, and it takes place when a young soldier coming back from war meets Marvellous, and it's about their time together, and it's just another delightful story that I think a wide range of people would enjoy. Then we have The Fisherman by Chigozie Obioma, another one from the Man Booker longlist and then the shortlist. I would say that this is another one of the more accessible books from the Man Booker list this year. It is literary, but it's also very readable. It has a sort of fairy tale slash fable kind of feel to it. It's set in Nigeria, and it is to do with a prophecy that affects these 3 boys and their wider family. Again, I think that this is a widely accessible novel that would appeal to a lot of people. Both of my parents have read this and really enjoyed it, and my dad is not a big reader, so that's saying something. He got through it and he enjoyed it. The penultimate book that I'm going to mention here is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Now, this wasn't technically published this year because it was self-published before it was picked up by a larger publisher, but I'm going to put it here because I feel that there is a great injustice at work here, because I really believe that this book should have been on the Goodreads Choice Awards for this year, but it wasn't eligible because it technically wasn't published this year. It's another book with a really lovely cover, and its contents are just so good. If you have friends who really like sci-fi novels, then this would be a good book for them. It also explores so much of the stuff that I wish more sci-fi explored. It looks at gender and race and different types of politics, and you've got different species, and it's all kind of representative of problems that we have facing our world today. On top of that, it's a really beautiful story. It's got great characters, great character development, all of the wonderful things. And again, a book that would appeal to a wide range of people, because I think that even if you're into literary fiction, more like I am, then you would enjoy this book as well, even though it is sci-fi. And likewise for sci-fi fans, it just buy it for all of your friends. The final book on my novels recommendations for Christmas list is The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. This is the most recent release from Margaret Atwood. It's another dystopian novel, and it has elements that are similar to The Handmaid's Tale and Oryx and Crake, but again, this is quite different. It's set in a prison, but you volunteer to sign up to this prison, and it means that you are safe from the outside world. But of course, there are different threats within this prison system, and it's not as utopian as everything seems. This book has a different sort of tone to some of Margaret Atwood's other books, although she's such a great writer and writes in such a variety of styles that I don't think that there is a typical Margaret Atwood book, and this is exemplary of that. I'm going to add a bonus book because I nearly forgot about The Gap of Time by Jeanette Winterson. I really love this. It is a retelling of The Winter's Tale by William Shakespeare, and it's the first of the Hogarth Shakespeare series that Vintage is putting out over the next couple of years. So I would recommend this one for Shakespeare lovers in your life. She takes wonderful twists on the original with this, and even if you haven't read the original, it has a little synopsis of it at the beginning. So there we are. Those are the books that I would recommend that you buy all of your friends at Christmas. Of course, I also strongly suggest that you visit your local independent bookshop and ask for recommendations there, or go and buy these books at your independent bookshop. You know I love bookshops, so go to your local bookshop before you go online for these. That's all from me for today. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye!